A dead franchise, a killer named Little Death, two women who should have known better. Teenage sex and death at Camp Miasma is one of the strangest horror movies of the year, and I'm still thinking about it. Welcome to Scary World, where I walk you through the best, the worst, and the downright disturbing. I'm Arturo Padilla.
Hi.
Let's get into it. A dying slasher franchise gets handed to an eager young director to resurrect. To do it right, she goes looking for the original movie's final girl, a reclusive actress still living out at the campsite where the original was shot at. What starts as a pitch turns into something a whole lot bloodier.
Out here, there are certain nights when you just get this feeling that some psycho killer is gonna chop you up into a million little pieces. Oh, I like that feeling.
The first category is production.
Told you I'd make a movie someday. Huh?
Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma is directed by Schoenbrun, who previously did We're All Going to the World's Fair and I Saw the TV Glow. And full disclosure, this is the first time I've sat down and watched one of their movies. And let me tell you, I left quite impressed. They have a great eye for horror, and this movie showcases that. This movie is shot beautifully. The framing and composition are precise, thought all the way through, with close-ups especially doing some of the heavy lifting. The shots hold on faces past a point where a normal movie would cut away, and that extra beat is where the frames shine. You are stuck looking at somebody past the point of comfort. You don't get let off the hook, and you end up settling in along with the character. Another awesome technical feat are the backgrounds. Certain scenes are straight up painted, and instead of looking cheap, it looks magical, classical, like something out of an old Technicolor movie. It makes the exterior scenes pop in a way modern horror rarely does anymore. Everybody's out there color grading the life out of the woods, and this movie just paints the woods instead. Fake snow and painted backdrops are on purpose. It's a choice, it's committed to, and it works. The needle drops will also raise some eyebrows, but somehow they pair perfectly with the action on the screen. Hearing Counting Crows' A Long December was nostalgic and a very odd call at the same time, but it landed anyway. That's the movie in a nutshell, a weird swing that connects. This is a technically well-executed movie. Whatever else you make of it, the craft is not in question. And for that, Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma gets a 2 out of 2 for production. I loved the way this movie looked from top to bottom, from start to finish. They did a great job making sure that everything on the screen looked absolutely perfect. From the shots to the backgrounds to the foreground to everything in between. Everything is just thought out well. Everything was just executed at a very high level. The next category is story.
Second act needs work.
Schoenbrun also wrote this one, and the story here is doing double duty. It's a slasher on top and an argument underneath. It's wrestling with transphobia, queerness, desire, and repression, and it does a real good job translating all of that into something you can actually feel. Schoenbrun has been open that the goal was to honor these movies and gut them at the same time, because the slasher is a genre that helped codify the idea of transness as monstrous. That's the engine underneath this whole thing. But here's where my problem lies. This is a film school movie, and I mean that literally. It's a movie that assumes you took the class. It's throwing you theory left and right. Final Girl, the gays, the return of the repressed, the whole psychosexual reading of the genre, and half of the time it's naming the reference out loud instead of trusting you to catch it. If you live in this stuff like I do, it's awesome. It's a lecture you're happy to sit through. But I sat through 4 years of media studies, and there were still stretches where I could feel the movie checking whether I'd done the reading. And that's a barrier. Not a flaw exactly, but a barrier. There's a whole audience walking into a Friday night horror movie who are going to tune out of this thing, and I don't think they're wrong for it. The movie could have trusted its images more and its footnotes a little less. Which is a shame, because underneath all that, it's put together surprisingly well. The pacing is good, all 3 acts hit the beats they need to, and it never stalls out in the middle, which is not a given for a movie carrying this much. It's a solid story, just a lot to digest. And for that, Camp Miasma gets a 1 out of 2 for story. Like I said, if you're a film nerd, if you're a film buff like myself, you will understand what's going on from Act 1 to 2 to 3, but there is a lot of film theory going on in this movie, and it's very explicit. and they expect you to just sit there and absorb all the theory and not really show them through action, which is what you would want in a movie like this. And that's why I think a lot of people will start tuning out a little bit. I even had one person walk out of the theater in the middle of the movie because of it. And I think that is a detriment to the overall picture. The next category is ensemble.
She's an actress. She's acting.
This cast is awesome across the board. Hannah Einbinder is fantastic, and she firmly anchors this movie. From her line delivery to her intimate moments, she's great. She's carrying a role that could have very easily have tipped into a cartoon, but she keeps it human. She takes the character seriously even when the movie around her isn't, and that's a balance that's not easy. Gillian Anderson does a great job in support as well. She quietly steals some scenes out from under Einbinder. She's not doing a big performance, she's doing a restrained one, and that stillness is what gets you. 2 or 3 moments in this movie belong to her entirely, and she barely raises her voice for any of them. The rest of the cast does solid work in their respective roles, from the fake movie in the movie to the real characters interacting with our leads. Nobody's phoning it in for a paycheck. And for that, Camp Miasma gets a 2 out of 2 for ensemble. I liked this entire cast. They did a phenomenal job with their roles, and as I said, they don't phone it in. Einbinder especially is absolutely awesome as our lead, and she nails this thing. This movie would not have worked without her performance. The next category is horror.
Is it scary?
There is plenty of blood and gore in this movie. It's a mix of practical and CG, but the CG stuff doesn't always hold up next to the practical stuff. That said, the goods are here and the body count is respectable. My issue is that the goods aren't the focal point. We are not here for the kills. They're more of an accoutrement, if you will, an accessory propping up the themes of the story. Every death is doing a job for the argument the movie is making, and that means they land as ideas before they land as scares. And look, I did enjoy the Splatterfest. I had a good time with it, but I needed this to be more than the seasoning on top. When your killer is called Little Death, and your whole thesis is sex and death welded together, I want the kill sequences swinging as hard as everything else in the frame is swinging. And they don't quite get there. And for that, Camp Miasma gets a 1 out of 2 for horror. As I mentioned, there is a nice body count in this movie, but the CG tends up looking a little wonky in some scenes, especially when there's a lot of blood. You do get some CG geyser looking effects, which works in the moment, but doesn't really hold up as the movie goes along. And I think that could have been done more practically. If it was, we would be having a different conversation. The last category is legacy.
All right, now make up your mind.
I really enjoyed this movie. Teenage sex and death at Camp Miasma is fun, engaging, and the movie within the movie is pretty awesome all on its own. That intro especially, laying out the Camp Miasma franchise history as this little montage, all that exposition delivered in one stylish chunk is a great piece of work. You buy the fake franchise completely inside of about 90 seconds, which is the trick the entire rest of the movie depends on. If that doesn't land, nothing after works. There's no question that the story is hefty in terms of themes and theories, but it really came together at the end. It's a rewarding watch for anybody who sticks with it. And I think this is a movie people are going to be writing about and arguing over for a long time. It's the kind of horror movie that gets taught, and that's a legacy. And for that, Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma gets a 2 out of 2 for legacy. I really enjoyed this movie. From the jump, it got me engaged, especially with that montage about the franchise history. I really wanted to actually watch every single one of these Camp Miasma movies. It's a parody in terms of Friday the 13th and how many movies they released, but I think they did a great job setting us up for what to expect in this movie in terms of what Camp Miasma brought to the table. And in relation to the themes and the theories that are sprinkled about this movie, if you are a movie buff, you will enjoy this. It is a little bit harder to get into if you don't know about film theory per se, and I think that could turn some people off. But like I said, if you're patient, this movie will definitely reward you.
Task. Can you tell me what time it is?
Now it's time to add it all up. For production, Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma got a 2. For story, it got a 1. For ensemble, it got a 2. For horror, it got a 1, and for legacy, it got a 2, bringing the total score up to an 8 out of 10. Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma is a beautiful, filthy, overstuffed swing at the slasher genre from somebody who clearly loves it and somebody who clearly has a bone to pick with it. The filmmaking is gorgeous, the 2 leads are outstanding, and the ideas are worth the effort. But it's also a film school movie that assumes you took the class, and it treats its own kills like a side dish. If you want a clean night of camp counselors getting picked off, this is not your movie. If you want a horror movie that's actually about something and looks incredible doing it, go pay for this thing. Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma is in theaters now. I'm Arturo Padilla, and remember, it's a scary world out there, but I am here to walk you through it. See you next time.
Hello, I just wanted to say goodbye.